I've been sitting on Kill Knight for quite some time now, and the main reason for that is the fact that it really hurts my fingers when I play this game. So I'm stuck playing for sessions that last around 45 to 60 minutes long before I need to give my poor thumbs a rest, playing with a controller obviously. But even that's a bit of a nostalgic feeling, going back into the 90s where I'd be playing these different Super Nintendo bullet hell-like games, and definitely getting some numb fingers at the end of those sessions. Whilst Kill Knight definitely pays some homage to some of those games of the past, there's definitely a bit of an evolved feeling to this one when you play through and see the amount of mechanics that are at play. And I'm going to throw it out there pretty early that this is a really difficult game. So I'm not calling this a review, I'm just kind of calling this a, hey, I think this is a game that you should stand up and have a look at, especially if you like overly mechanic, difficult games that have a lot of stuff on the screen at the same time. Kill Knight has a bit of storyline at play here. You're this loyal knight that gets sent down into the eternal abyss with one role only, one purpose, that's to kill the last angel. How do you do that? You do that by playing through these interesting layers. I believe there might be 5, of which I've only unlocked 3 because, as I said earlier, it's really hard. And you pretty much have to use everything at your disposal to try and survive. Might sound easy, but it's actually not. So you have a bunch of different mechanics at play that help you to do that, and Kill Knight definitely is one of those games that goes from feeling impossible to feeling comfortable to feeling like, hey, I can do this, and then ramping up the difficulty once more when you move on to the next layer. It is possibly the only game as well that I'd say that you need to do the tutorial to actually make it through. Indeed, even after playing for a few hours, I had to go back and practice this counter mechanic because I feel like that was the only way I was going to make through this little part of this evolving layer. Did I mention that? Yeah, the layers actually evolve and crumble and move as you play through. So what mechanics do you get to use? Well, you have this little pistol, which is your main thing that you shoot over and over again. And then you have a dash, which can be impacted by the different armor that you're wearing. A heavy pistol or a heavy gun that actually runs out of ammo, which you can charge using your sword, which is the other thing that you can use for damage. And then you have your dash. Did I say dash? I might have said that twice, whatever. Now, all this seems simplistic, but I guess there's another layer to it, and that comes around the way that you use your pistol, the way that you have this little trigger that shows up every time you run out of ammo, which happens like every 3 or 4 seconds, and the way that you need to try and collect these little blood gemstone things around the screen in order to get this big explosive bullet thing that actually helps you to do a lot of damage, but also get some of your health back. So that little trigger that I mentioned earlier, well, if you successfully time that right, you can actually ramp up the speed of your bullets or make them have more penetration, or you can use it for things like using your sword to collect some ammunition for your big gun, or even siphoning all those little red things on your screen, which, as I said earlier, is really important if you want to get some of your health back. So when I first went through the tutorial, I was feeling like I'm going to need to take a notepad or something to remember all this, because there's a lot of stuff going on. I haven't even mentioned the way that you counter some special sort of ultra strong enemies when they turn red, or even some of the sword mechanics, which I barely use because I'm too busy running and dashing away whilst I'll shoot them. But what it means, with such a large amount of enemies on screen, you are constantly having to choose whether you want to go aggressive and get more bullets, whether you need to use your little triggers to get some ammo for your big guns, or even use it to siphon to get some health. And you're doing this whilst your screen is full of projectiles and enemies that charge you, and all sorts of different lasers and crumbling fields and spinning spiky things and pretty much anything else that you can think of. And what does that deliver in the end? Just a really fun, brutal little bullet hell twins shooter. There are some leaderboards and things like that. I haven't got too deep into that yet because I'm not good enough. But I guess something else to mention is that as you complete different objectives, you do actually get to upgrade all those different elements that I mentioned earlier. And you can also use a bit of currency to upgrade if you're not meeting those objectives. There's some pretty easy ones at the start, things like just having to dash into enemies or keeping your kill streak going for long enough. Yeah, there's a kill streak there, which is pretty important and ramps up your damage and points as well. I gotta say, I really like Kill Knight. It's not only because it's an Australian developed game, respect to Australia, but I think it's a hell of a lot of fun. Really curious to see whether this is on your radar as well. Let me know what you think.